Oliver Harris is the kind of CEO who never misses a meeting, until the day traffic rerouted his life forever. On a cold Seattle morning, he spots two little girls asleep on a city bus. Something in their faces pulls at him. When no guardian comes, Oliver does something unthinkable for a billionaire. He stays. Back at his skyscraper office, the girls say a name that shakes him to his core: Sarah Watson, a name he hasn't heard since college, a love that disappeared without a trace. Now he's faced with a past he didn't know he left behind, and two daughters he never knew existed. But the road to redemption won't be easy. Secrets, betrayal, and a rival out for revenge threaten the fragile reunion he's only just begun. Can a man known for precision and power learn to be present and tender? This is a story about second chances, unlikely fatherhood, and how one wrong turn led Oliver to everything he didn't know he needed. Subscribe now for more deeply moving stories that prove sometimes the best things in life arrive unexpectedly. Oliver Harris didn't believe in delays. Not traffic, not people, not life. He'd built Harris Innovations into a tech giant by doing everything on time, usually ahead of it. But on that gray Seattle morning, time rebelled. The interstate was jammed. Some minor collision ahead, his driver said. Oliver waved him off and got out, deciding to walk the last mile to the office. He had a quarterly review at 9:00 a.m., and he hated being late even more than he hated small talk. As he passed a half-empty King County Metro bus idling near a corner diner, something strange caught his eye. Two little girls curled up on one of the seats, sleeping soundly. No adult in sight, no backpacks, just each other. "Hey!" Oliver called to the bus driver, knocking lightly on the open door. "Are those kids with you?" The driver, a grizzled man in a reflective jacket, turned with a sigh. "Been with me since my second route. No parent. Said they were trying to get to their mom but got tired and fell asleep. I called CPS, but no one's come yet." Oliver hesitated. Kids weren't part of his world. He didn't have nieces or nephews. His calendar was filled with investor calls, not field trips. But something about the way the girls clung to each other stirred an ache he hadn't felt in years, a kind of loneliness he remembered all too well. He climbed onto the bus. One girl opened her eyes, hazel, alert, guarded. The other stirred, but didn't wake. The first girl studied him quietly, clutching the edge of her sister's coat. "What's your name?" Oliver asked softly. "Ella," she whispered. "This is Emma. We're not supposed to talk to strangers." He gave a small smile. "That's smart. We were going to find Mom, but she didn't come back. The diner was closed, so we just sat." Oliver crouched to her eye level, suddenly unsure of himself. "I don't know what's going on, but I'd like to help. Would that be okay?" Ella looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slightly. "We're hungry. I can fix that." An hour later, the girls were curled up on the plush couch in Oliver's executive suite, plates of pancakes and strawberries in front of them. His assistant, Naomi, had canceled the meeting and was frantically calling local shelters. "They gave a last name," Naomi said. "Watson. Said their mom's name is Sarah." Oliver's breath caught. "Sir?" Naomi asked. "I knew a Sarah Watson," he said, almost to himself. "A long time ago, in college." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "You think these are your—" "I don't know," Oliver said quietly, "but I need to find out." He stepped back into the room. The girls were coloring now, Emma drawing what looked like a rocket ship, Ella carefully writing letters. Oliver sat beside them. "Your mom," he said gently. "Do you know where she is?" Ella's lips pressed together. "She works at a coffee shop, but she was sick. She told us to wait, but she didn't come back." Oliver's stomach turned. He'd seen Sarah only once since graduation, in a photo from a college reunion he hadn't attended. She looked happy. Then she disappeared. Emma looked up suddenly, as if recalling something important. "You kind of look like our dad." Oliver's heart stuttered. He couldn't speak. "Mom showed us a picture once. She said he had kind eyes but got too busy." Ella leaned forward, her voice even quieter. "Was that you?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. Not yet. But, in that moment, the man who always had answers was undone by two girls and a possibility he never expected. Outside, Seattle's sky drizzled lightly. Inside, time stood still. By the time CPS finally returned Naomi's call, the girls had eaten, bathed, and were curled up on the corner of Oliver's sectional couch, watching cartoons with the unspoken wariness of kids who'd learned to expect the worst. "They're sending someone," Naomi said, stepping quietly into the office, "but they want to know if we've found their mother yet." Oliver nodded distractedly. He couldn't stop staring at the note Ella had tucked into her backpack. A scrap of paper with the address 2014 Belmont Avenue, West Seattle, written in neat, childish handwriting. It wasn't far, and he had a driver. "I'll go check it out myself," he said. "I need to know if it's her." Naomi hesitated. "You sure, sir? You haven't seen this woman in 10 years, he finished. "I was supposed to." The ride over was silent, but Oliver's mind raced. He remembered Sarah Watson so vividly, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, the laugh that made Professor smile even mid-lecture. They'd been inseparable senior year until he landed the internship in New York. She encouraged him to go. He said he'd write. He never heard back. The building on Belmont was old but clean. Faded siding, a rusted mailbox, no sign of Sarah's name. He knocked on Unit 3B. Nothing. After a pause, he knocked again. A woman answered, early 30s, tired eyes, hair up in a messy bun. "Yes?" "I'm looking for Sarah Watson," Oliver said. Her expression shifted instantly from guarded to devastated. "You're too late." Oliver's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "She passed away. 2 weeks ago. Massive aneurysm. No warning." The woman hesitated. "I'm her sister. Rachel." He stumbled back a half step, stunned. Rachel's tone softened. "You must be Oliver. How?" "She had pictures, stories. She said you were important, that you would have stayed if you'd known." Oliver's throat tightened. "She never told me. I thought she left me." Rachel opened the door wider. "She didn't. She wrote. She begged me to reach out to you when she got sick, but she wasn't sure how you'd respond." "Wait. She wrote me?" Rachel turned and came back with a worn shoebox. Inside were 6 sealed envelopes, all addressed to Oliver Harris. 3 to his company's old headquarters, 2 to his condo in Manhattan, and 1 marked, "Private. Only if something happens to me." They all came back. "Returned to sender. Some even unopened," Rachel said, handing over the last one. "She asked me to hold this. Said you deserve the truth." Oliver sat down on the small couch inside the apartment and tore open the envelope with the trembling fingers. The paper smelled faintly like her, lavender and peppermint. Her handwriting was soft, slanted, undeniably hers. "Dear Oliver, if you're reading this, then I didn't get the ending I hoped for. I never wanted to keep secrets. I didn't want to hurt you, or be hurt again. Ella and Emma are yours. They have your stubbornness, your smile when you don't know someone's watching. I tried to tell you. Maybe the world didn't want you to know, but now you do. Love them, if you can. Forgive me, if you can't. Sarah." He read it twice, tears blurring the edges. Rachel sat silently across from him. "She never gave up on you," she said softly, "even when she was sick, even when you didn't come." "I didn't know," Oliver whispered. "If I had—" Rachel nodded. "I believe you. And the girls, Ella and Emma, they're stronger than they look, but they need someone real, Not a billionaire in a tower, someone who stays. "I'm staying," he said, the words falling heavy but certain. And for the first time in years, Oliver Harris didn't care if he missed every meeting that day. By the time Oliver returned to his downtown penthouse, the city had begun to glow in the late afternoon gold. He stepped out of the elevator with Sarah's letter still folded in his inner coat pocket, a quiet fire in his chest that no board meeting could ever match. Ella and Emma were sitting on the floor of his minimalist living room, surrounded by crayons, half-eaten apple slices, and a jigsaw puzzle of the solar system. Naomi knelt beside them, coaching them gently through finding Earth's place among the stars. "They've been good," she said, standing up when she saw him. "Curious, quiet. They didn't ask for much except—" "Pancakes," Emma piped up. "Blueberry," Ella added, eyes bright with expectation. Oliver blinked. "Now?" "We skipped lunch," Emma said solemnly. Naomi shrugged. "They mentioned it 6 times. I figured I'd leave that decision to you." He almost laughed, but what came out was something closer to a breathless exhale. "Pancakes it is." 10 minutes later, Oliver, Tech CEO, Forbes cover alumnus, breakfast novice, was staring down a non-stick skillet, unsure if the batter was supposed to look this lumpy. Ella watched, arms crossed. "It's too thick." "You're too thick," Emma said, giggling. Oliver turned to them with mock offense. "I'll have you know, I run a multi-billion-dollar—" "Pancake disaster?" Ella grinned. The room filled with laughter, light and warm and strange in a space that had gone too long without it. The batter burned slightly, but no one cared. They sat around the kitchen island eating half-cooked pancakes topped with extra syrup. Emma swung her legs back and forth, talking about a cartoon she loved. Ella asked if billionaires had pets, then declared they should get a lizard. Oliver just listened. He hadn't realized how much he'd missed this. Real, conversation without strategy. Connection without agenda. "Do you work a lot?" Ella asked suddenly, mid-chew. "I used to," Oliver admitted, wiping syrup from his sleeve. "Too much." Emma leaned her chin on her hands. "Mom said you were important, but also far away." His heart clenched. She wasn't wrong. There was a pause, the kind of silence that says more than words. Then Ella asked, "Are you going to go far away again?" "No," he said. Then again, firmer, "Not if I can help it." The girls looked at each other. Whatever silent message passed between them, it seemed enough, for now. After dinner, Naomi prepared a guest room with extra pillows and 2 twin sleeping bags side by side. The girls changed into borrowed pajamas far too big, sleeves drooping over their hands. Oliver read them a story, badly, missing the voices Sarah would have given each character, but they listened anyway. As he tucked them in, Emma whispered, "Mom used to say bedtime was when wishes went out." Oliver's voice caught. "Did you make one?" "Uh-huh," she said sleepily, "but I can't tell you." "Why not?" "Because then it won't come true," Ella muttered from under her blanket. He nodded slowly. "Fair enough." Later, alone in the living room, Oliver stood at the window staring out at Puget Sound. His phone buzzed. 5 missed calls, 3 from board members, 1 from his assistant, and a final one from someone at a venture capital firm demanding to know where he was during today's earnings review. He silenced the phone. Behind him, 2 sleeping girls breathed softly under borrowed blankets. A few feet away, Sarah's letter still lay open on the kitchen table. He'd missed a meeting. Maybe tomorrow he'd miss another. Because this was the first thing in years that felt like it truly mattered. The next morning, light crept slowly through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Oliver's penthouse, casting a warm amber glow across the breakfast table. The air smelled of cinnamon toast and orange slices, Naomi's quiet effort to make the unfamiliar feel like home. Oliver stood in the doorway, watching as Ella helped Emma pour juice into mismatched mugs. Their hair was messy, their pajamas still wrinkled, and they looked exactly like Sarah. So much it hurt. "You're staring," Ella said, glancing up. He blinked. "Sorry, You two remind me of someone." "Our mom?" Emma asked, her voice soft but curious. Oliver nodded slowly. "Yeah, exactly." Emma pushed a mug toward him, her fingers sticky with jam. "You can sit, you know." He did, hesitantly, like a guest in someone else's life. As they ate, Naomi pulled him aside to whisper, "They've got school in an hour. Their backpacks are in my car." "Can I take them?" he asked instinctively. Naomi raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" He wasn't, but he nodded anyway. The drive to West Seattle Elementary was quieter than the night before. The girls sat in the back, watching the city pass. When they pulled into the school's drop-off lane, Emma finally spoke. "Can you pick us up too?" He glanced at her in the rearview mirror, heart catching. "You want me to?" Ella shrugged. "You don't have to. Just if you're not busy." "I'll be here," he said, voice firm. They smiled. Not big, but real. After they disappeared through the school doors, Oliver didn't drive off. He just sat there, the weight of 2 backpacks gone, but something heavier sitting in his chest. He pulled out his phone, scrolled past dozens of notifications, and finally opened Sarah's letter again. "I didn't want to raise them alone, but I was scared you'd turn away, and they needed safety more than a maybe." He closed the phone and made a call. "Naomi," he said, once she answered. "Can you find the address Sarah lived at back in college?" There was a pause, then, "You thinking what I think you're thinking? I need to know what really happened, not what I assumed, not what someone told me." By noon, he was pulling up to a modest red-brick building on 35th Avenue, a place he hadn't seen since he was 23 and too stubborn to chase after the one woman who'd ever made him feel seen. The landlord remembered Sarah. "She left quietly, no drama," the man said. "Pregnant, I think. Always got her rent in early, left a note the day she moved out, said something about starting over where no one would expect. Never said where." Oliver's stomach twisted. He sat on the porch steps for a long time after that, trying to imagine her there, writing him letters, maybe calling his office and getting silence in return. He thought of Marla, his former assistant, polished, efficient, always fiercely protective of his time, maybe too protective. "Naomi," he called again later, "can you dig into Marla's personnel files and see if any physical mail was ever logged for me between 2014 and 2018? Naomi's voice sharpened. "You think she blocked Sarah?" "I don't want to think it," he said quietly, "but I need to know." By the time school let out, Oliver was back in the carpool line. Emma was the first to spot him, dragging Ella by the hand. "You came back," she called. "Of course," he said, stepping out to open the door for them. As they climbed in, Ella handed him a construction paper drawing, stick figures under a blue sky, one tall figure standing between 2 smaller ones. "That's you," she explained simply. "Yeah?" His voice cracked. "Yeah. Mom said she didn't know if you were a good guy or just a busy one," Emma added. "We told her. Maybe both." Oliver looked at the drawing again. Maybe both. But he knew which one he wanted to be now. It was just after midnight when Naomi called back. Her voice, normally crisp with efficiency, was softer this time. Wary, even. "I found something, Oliver." He sat up in bed, the hum of the city beyond the penthouse windows barely registering. "Go on." "There's a record of incoming personal mail flagged redirected by assistant between 2015 and 2018. 26 entries, no digital scans, no handoffs to you logged. Sender? Mostly S. Watson. One from Sarah W. A couple just said Sarah, but the handwriting was consistent, same as the address you visited yesterday." Oliver felt his throat tighten. "She wrote, She did. And there's more, Naomi continued. Marla also logged 3 voicemail transcripts from a blocked number, marked handled, no action needed. They weren't attached to your file. Oliver's voice turned cold. Where's Marla now? Last I checked, senior PR at Everyon Tech. Their office is downtown. He ended the call without another word. The next morning, Oliver walked into Everyon like he still owned the room, and, once upon a time, he would have. The receptionist recognized him instantly and buzzed Marla's office. She didn't look surprised to see him. She always was good at staying one step ahead. Oliver, she said smoothly, standing from her desk. Long time. Too long, he replied flatly. We need to talk. She smiled politely. About? The letters, the voicemails, Sarah. Her expression didn't change, but he saw it. The flicker, a twitch at the corner of her eye. You'll have to be more specific. You intercepted her messages. You erased her. Marla sat back down, slowly. You were building something. I protected your time. She wasn't your future, Oliver. She was a college mistake. He stared at her, rage simmering. She was the mother of my children. Marla didn't blink. And now you're a better man for it. You have your company, your legacy. I gave you that space. You stole my family. Her smile finally cracked, replaced by something sharper. And yet, here you are, hero of the hour, reunited, headlines waiting, you're welcome. Oliver leaned across her desk, his voice low and fierce. If I ever see you near my daughters, or if one more lie comes out of your mouth, professionally or personally, I will bury your career so deep even LinkedIn won't remember you. He walked out before she could reply. Back at the office, Naomi had already pulled every recovered letter and digitized it into a private drive. Oliver read them all that night. Dozens of unsent truths, handwritten in Sarah's looping script. You probably don't care, but I wish you did. They're twins. Girls. They smile like you. If you still have the drawing we made in Austin, I hope you kept it. It always made you smile. He cried. For the first time in years, he didn't care who saw. The next morning, he brought the girls pancakes, blueberry this time, and slipped 2 small envelopes beside their plates. Each one contained a photo Sarah had included in her letters. One of her pregnant, one of them as babies, and one of all 3 asleep on a couch, tangled together. What's this? Ella asked. Memories you never should have missed, Oliver said gently. Uns I never should have missed either. Emma picked up the baby photo, her brow furrowing. That's us? Yeah, he whispered. She sent them to me, but I never got them. I didn't know. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ella reached across the table and took his hand. It's okay, she said quietly. You're here now. It wasn't forgiveness, not fully, but it was the beginning of something deeper. As he walked them to school that morning, Oliver knew 2 things for sure. He had been robbed, and he would never, ever let anyone take his daughters from him again. By Friday, the city buzzed with rumors. Photos had leaked, grainy shots of Oliver Harris walking hand in hand with twin girls, laughing over pancakes at a Capitol Hill cafe, another of him sitting on a park bench, braiding one of the girls' hair. The caption that ran in the Seattle Chronicle the next morning was brutal. Tech Titan's secret family. Harris spotted with identical twins. Source says former assistant claims paternity drama. Oliver stared at the screen in disbelief. Marla had moved faster than he expected. She's trying to make you look like you were hiding them, Naomi said, her voice low but tense. Like you kept them secret to protect your brand. His stomach twisted. And she's not done. Sure enough, by noon, more stories surfaced. Anonymous sources. Claims that Sarah had been paid off or kept quiet in exchange for real estate. None of it true. He called Sarah immediately. "I saw it," she said calmly, but her voice cracked. "The girls haven't yet. I made them turn off the TV, but I don't know how long we can keep this contained." "I'll fix it," he promised. "You shouldn't have to shield them alone." "You're not alone anymore either," she whispered, then hung up. The next morning, Oliver walked into a live press conference at the Harris Innovations Media Hall. Alone, no handlers, no legal team. Dozens of cameras flashed. "Mr. Harris, are the rumors true? Is this an admission of paternity? Are you financially supporting the children?" He stepped to the podium, took a long breath, and spoke. "The truth isn't always clean. Sometimes it's buried. Sometimes it's stolen." His voice echoed, steady but filled with raw honesty. "Years ago, I lost someone I loved because of lies I didn't know were being told, because of gatekeepers I trusted." He paused, scanning the sea of faces. "Two girls, Ella and Emma, changed my life with one sentence. 'Sir, are you our father?' They are my daughters, and I didn't know, but now I do, and I will protect them, not from scandal, from silence." One reporter stood. "And the claims made by Marla James? My former assistant fabricated a narrative to protect her own ambition. She withheld letters, voicemails, photos. She stole 10 years from me and from 2 innocent children." A low murmur swept through the crowd. Another hand shot up. "What do you say to critics who accuse you of using this for public sympathy?" Oliver smiled faintly, but his voice grew harder. "This isn't a comeback story. I don't need a redemption arc. What I need is a fair chance to be the father I should have been." By the time he stepped away from the podium, silence had fallen. That night, he sat on the floor of the girls' room in Sarah's apartment, building a cardboard planetarium with glitter glue and glow-in-the-dark stars. Ella leaned over and whispered, "They said you were bad on TV." "I heard," he said gently. Emma piped in, "But they don't know you." "No, sweetheart, they don't." The girls looked at him for a long moment before going back to their constellation maps. He caught Sarah watching from the doorway. Her eyes shimmered with unspoken emotion. "Thank you," she mouthed. He gave a soft nod. For them, anything. Later, when the girls were asleep, Oliver sat on the porch beside Sarah. Rain tapped the railing in a quiet rhythm. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice rough, "for not knowing, for not fighting harder back then, for letting people like Marla get close to my life." Sarah looked down at her hands. "I wanted to believe you would have come." "I would have," he said, gently placing one of the letters beside her, "if I had the chance." She brushed her fingers along the edge of the envelope, then looked at him, really looked at him. "You have the chance now." Rain blanketed Seattle in a soft hush that Sunday morning. From the kitchen, the smell of cinnamon and warm syrup wafted into the living room, where Oliver Harris sat cross-legged on the rug, letting Emma braid his hair. Ella sat beside them, holding a homemade dad quiz she'd drawn in marker. The first question was, "What's our favorite color?" He guessed wrong twice before they collapsed into giggles. "I'm still learning," he said sheepishly, and they both nodded, satisfied that he was at least trying. Sarah leaned against the doorway, her arms folded and heart aching in the best way. There was something so gently beautiful about the sight, this once impossible picture of a man who had always measured time in billable hours, now measuring it in pancakes and colored pencils. That afternoon, back at his penthouse, Oliver had a call with his board. His CFO, Milton Crane, a man who never once cracked a smile in 10 years, began without preamble. "You've missed 2 acquisition meetings, Oliver. Tokyo is asking questions. So is Zurich." "I'm aware," Oliver replied, eyes scanning a photo on his desk. Ella and Emma on his shoulders at Discovery Park, the sun behind them like halos. "We need clarity," Milton pressed. Is this a phase, or is the company taking a back seat to your parental awakening? Oliver stared at the camera. If you're asking whether I'm putting my daughters before the company, the answer is yes. The silence that followed could have shattered glass. I've given this place 20 years of my life, he said slowly. If two little girls with glitter glue and bedtime stories shake your faith in my leadership, maybe we've built the wrong kind of company. Milton blinked, but it was another board member, Jocelyn, from Product Strategy, who finally spoke. We just want you to be transparent. Investors notice when people change direction. Oliver replied calmly, then let them notice. After the call, he sat in the dark, letting the weight of that decision settle over him. He didn't regret it, but he knew what was coming. By Wednesday, it did. Oh, leak, an anonymous tip to a tech blog. Allegations that Oliver had redirected a portion of Harris Innovations' charity fund to a personal trust, fabricated emails, carefully timed photos. Sarah saw it first. You didn't do this, right? She asked, her voice tight with fear, holding up her phone. No, he said firmly, jaw clenching, but I know who did. Marla. She'd worked in PR for a rival firm ever since she left Harris Innovations, and now she had the connections and motive to poison the well. Oliver called Naomi. We're going on offense, he told her. Start with email forensics, and get our cybersecurity director on standby. I want every deleted message pulled. If Marla fabricated records, we'll prove it. Meanwhile, Oliver tried to shield the girls from it all. That night, in Sarah's tiny living room, he curled up on the couch with them, reading Charlotte's Web by lamplight. Emma interrupted to ask, Do grown-ups always fight with stories? He paused. Sometimes, he said gently, but I'm trying to write a better one. Ella leaned into his side. We like your version better. And in that moment, so simple, so pure, Oliver felt something shift. Not just in him, but around him. Like the universe had bent slightly in his favor, but the fight was far from over. Back in his condo that night, Naomi called. We found something, she said. Marla didn't just leak stories. She tried to delete a batch of internal server logs that prove she accessed Sarah's emails back in 2013. Can we tie it directly to her? Naomi hesitated. We can do better. One of the IT guys recorded a screen share tutorial she gave in 2017, explaining how to clean out inconvenient messages before PR gets a hold of them. She joked about rebranding secrets. It's all time-stamped. It's admissible. Oliver exhaled deeply. Let's end this, he said. Because this story, it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming truth for two girls who finally had someone reading their bedtime stories and rewriting their future. Oliver Harris stood in front of the full-length mirror in his penthouse, adjusting the cuffs on a navy suit he hadn't worn since last year's Innovation Summit. But this wasn't for a boardroom. This was for battle. Downstairs, the press waited. Outside Harris Innovations headquarters, reporters were gathered in a tight knot of tension, cameras ready, mics pointed like weapons. Rumors had already swirled for days. Allegations of misused charity funds, headlines questioning his fatherhood and integrity. The girls were still asleep at Sarah's apartment. He'd made sure of that. Inside the building, his assistant Naomi walked beside him, holding a tablet with the evidence they'd compiled. Timestamps, emails, video recordings. The truth wasn't a weapon. It was a scalpel, and he was ready to cut through the noise. Once you say this, Naomi warned gently, you can't take it back. I'm not trying to, Oliver replied, his voice steady. He stepped onto the press platform, the murmur of voices dying instantly as he took the podium. Good morning, he began, pausing long enough to meet their eyes, not as a CEO, but as a man who had finally stopped running. In the last 72 hours, rumors have circulated about my personal and professional life. I'd like to clarify them now, without spin, without PR advisors, without hiding behind statements. He paused, breathing in slowly. I have 2 daughters, Ella and Emma. They're 9 years old. They are brilliant, brave, and better than anything I've ever built, and I didn't know they existed until 2 weeks ago. A wave of clicks from cameras. I've also learned that years ago, someone I trusted intercepted their mother's attempts to contact me. That person later joined a rival firm and recently orchestrated a smear campaign against my character. Her name is Marla James. Naomi queued up the video. A screen behind Oliver lit up with the footage. Marla's own voice describing how to clean up messy communications before PR finds them. Reporters stared, stunned. Oliver continued, his voice softer now, but no less resolute. Let me be clear. My company's charitable donations are intact. Every dollar is accounted for, but more importantly, my family, my daughters, are not a scandal. They are my priority. He closed his folder. I will no longer apologize for stepping away from profit to protect what truly matters. If being a father makes me a liability in your eyes, then invest elsewhere. And with that, he stepped away. Back inside, Naomi hugged him for the first time in a decade. That, she whispered emotionally, was the man we've all been waiting for. Later that evening, at Sarah's apartment, the girls were coloring in the living room when Oliver walked in. Ella looked up first. Were you on TV? A little, he said with a chuckle, kneeling beside them. I had something important to say. Was it about us? Emma asked, her voice hopeful. He nodded. It was all about you. They both smiled and returned to their markers as if their world hadn't just changed. Again. Sarah entered from the kitchen, drying her hands. You blew the doors off the place, she said, watching him closely. I didn't do it to be noble, he replied. I did it because I'm done pretending success means silence. She walked over slowly and touched his arm. You're changing, Oliver. It's terrifying, but it's also kind of beautiful. That night, after bedtime stories and whispered giggles, Oliver sat alone on the balcony. Seattle's skyline blinked back at him, a familiar view now tinged with something warmer, less ambition, more meaning. His phone buzzed, a message from Naomi. Board met privately, half resigned in support. Media's backing you. Marla's firm suspended her. He put the phone down, and in the quiet, he allowed himself to smile, not because he won a war, but because he'd finally started living like the kind of man his daughters could be proud of. The next morning, Oliver stood in the polished hallway of the King County Family Court building, his heart pounding louder than the early morning traffic outside. He wasn't holding a contract or pitch deck today, he was holding a guardianship petition. He'd spent the past week with his legal team, drafting every line with precision and purpose. Not for leverage, for protection, for permanence. Across from him sat Sarah, her face drawn with worry and exhaustion. Even with the media storm mostly behind them, the emotional weight lingered. She sipped her coffee slowly, then looked over at him. Are you sure about this? She asked softly. Oliver turned toward her, voice low but certain. Yes. I'm not here to take anything from you, Sarah. I'm here to stand beside you. For them. Just then, their attorney, Alicia Nguyen, approached. They'll call us in soon, she said, offering a warm, reassuring smile. We submitted the evidence last night. The judge has everything. Marla's recorded admission, the intercepted letters, your financial records, school statements. Oliver nodded, eyes locked on the double oak doors down the hall. Inside the courtroom, it felt colder than it should have. The judge, a tall woman with calm eyes and a reputation for cutting through posturing, scanned their documents in silence before finally speaking. "Ms. Watson, Mr. Harris, the nature of this guardianship request is unusual," she said. "You are not married, you've only recently reunited, and yet you seek joint legal custody?" Sarah spoke first, her voice trembling slightly. "I know how it looks, but I've raised our daughters with love and stability, and he showed up. He didn't run. He stayed, even when it got ugly." Oliver stepped forward. "Your Honor, I was kept in the dark for years, but I've learned that love isn't a title you earn in time. It's what you choose to give daily, without certainty of return. I want to be their father, not in theory, in reality. I will never abandon them again." The judge paused. "What if you disagree on their schooling, medical care, religion?" "Then we work it out," Sarah said, glancing at him, "because now they have two people willing to fight for them. That's more than most kids get." There was silence. Then a smile, subtle but sure, broke across the judge's lips. "This court grants joint legal guardianship to both parties, subject to a 6-month review." The gavel fell. The sound echoed not just through the room, but through Oliver's chest. Outside, Sarah exhaled sharply and leaned against the brick wall of the courthouse. "I can't believe that actually happened," she whispered. He smiled, stunned himself. "I can, because they're worth it." Suddenly, 2 voices called out, "Dad!" Ella and Emma, standing on the sidewalk with Naomi, ran toward him, arms wide. He dropped to his knees and caught them both, lifting them off the ground as they giggled breathlessly. "You're late," Emma teased. "We brought snacks to bribe the judge," Ella added seriously. Oliver laughed, burying his face in their hair. "Guess we didn't need them." As they walked toward the car, hand in hand, a man stood near the corner watching them. Mid-50s, sharp suit, familiar eyes. Sarah saw him first. Her face went pale. "Is that—" Oliver turned. His eyes narrowed. "Her old boss, the one who fired her right after the pregnancy leave request?" The man stepped forward. "I didn't know," he said simply. "About the girls, about any of it. I was wrong." He handed Oliver a thick envelope. "This is for their college fund. Consider it overdue amends." And with that, he walked away. Oliver held the envelope, stunned. Sarah just shook her head. "People surprise you," she said. "Yeah," Oliver murmured, glancing at the girls, now racing each other to the car. "They really do." The scent of fresh lavender filled Oliver's penthouse, the girls' favorite. Tiny footprints tracked across the hardwood floor as Emma and Ella chased each other around the breakfast island, still wearing mismatched socks and pajama tops. Sarah poured coffee, half smiling as she watched. "You know, 3 months ago, this place felt like a museum," Oliver looked up from slicing strawberries. "Now, it's more like a zoo." She laughed softly. "The good kind." But peace never lingers long when old enemies have unfinished business. A knock came. Naomi opened the door, her face clouding instantly. "You're not going to like this." Oliver stepped into the foyer to find a courier holding a thick, yellow envelope. No words, just a legal summons. Marla James Veit, Oliver Harris, and Sarah Watson. Allegation: emotional endangerment and misuse of private transportation assets for minors under non-disclosed custody. Sarah's hands shook as she read it. "She's still coming after us," she murmured, eyes scanning the letter, "and now she's targeting the girls' school." Oliver's jaw clenched. "Let her try." The next morning, Harris Innovations was a war room. Legal teams ran scenarios, PR staff drafted statements, but Oliver's focus wasn't just corporate now. He asked Naomi to reach out to the twins' school directly. By noon, Principal Watkins of Greenwood Academy called. "We received an anonymous complaint," she said. claiming your involvement with Ella and Emma poses a conflict of interest due to ongoing litigation." Sarah was stunned. What does that even mean? It's vague. But someone is trying to force a hearing on whether the girls should be placed in temporary care. That was the line. That night, in the quiet of the condo, Oliver looked over at Sarah, her eyes dark with worry as she folded one of Emma's sweaters for school the next day. "I'm not going to let her do this," he said. Sarah shook her head quietly. "You shouldn't have to keep saving us." He reached across the table, gently gripping her hand. "I'm not saving you. I'm protecting what we built." She swallowed, voice breaking. "You still believe this can be whole again?" Oliver looked toward the girl's bedroom door, where faint giggles filtered through. "It already is." The following morning, he met with a private investigator, one of the best in the city, and handed him a file. "I want everything on Marla," he said. "Employment, assets, contacts, especially any history with competing firms." What came back within 48 hours was damning. Emails between Marla and an executive at Nextech, a rival company, outlined a plan to leak sensitive Harris Innovations documents and frame Oliver for financial misappropriation. They weren't just trying to ruin his reputation, they wanted him declared unfit. Oliver took the findings straight to his lawyers and then to the judge overseeing the guardianship agreement. A hearing was scheduled immediately. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Marla sat stiffly in a navy blazer, her smirk thin. Sarah and Oliver sat side by side, hands lightly touching beneath the table. The judge read over the documents silently. Then she looked at Marla. "These communications with Nextech are not only unethical, they're criminal. Ms. James, your motion is not only denied, but I'm referring this matter to the State Bar and District Attorney's Office for criminal investigation." Marla's mouth opened slightly, but no words came. The gavel fell again. Outside the courthouse, Ella tugged on Oliver's sleeve. "Did we win?" He knelt down, hugging her tightly. "We did better than win, sweetheart. We told the truth, and it stood up." Emma chimed in, arms around his neck. "Does this mean no one can take us away again?" Oliver's voice cracked. "Not a chance." Later that night, in the kitchen, Sarah pulled him aside. "You fought for us," she whispered. "No," he corrected, holding her gaze. "I belong with you." Their eyes locked in a silence that said more than words. And in the background, the girls built a pillow fort that, somehow, took up half the living room. For the first time in a long time, Oliver didn't think about meetings or mergers. He just sat in the fort and stayed. The sun filtered through the curtains of a restored craftsman home in Queen Anne, its beams falling across books, sneakers, and an overflowing laundry basket. A framed photo of 4 people, Oliver, Sarah, and the girls, sat on the mantel, slightly crooked but perfectly placed. Downstairs, laughter echoed from the kitchen, where Ella, now 15, spun around with a carton of almond milk in hand. Emma, more reserved, adjusted her glasses while reviewing a slideshow on her laptop. "It's just a draft. Don't judge," she muttered. Oliver watched them from the doorway, coffee in hand, a softness in his expression that had only deepened over time. "You're launching your own podcast about women in tech and didn't tell me?" he teased, his voice half proud, half playful. Emma grinned. "We wanted to get it right before showing you." Sarah walked in from the backyard, a streak of soil on her cheek from morning gardening. "It's called The Next Us," she announced, "and they're interviewing 3 STEM mentors next week. Self-booked." Ella added, "You're on the list, Dad, but only if you answer the questions seriously." Oliver chuckled, raising his hand in mock solemnity. "I promise to be boring and deeply emotional." As the family prepared breakfast, the doorbell rang. Naomi, still Oliver's assistant but now a close family friend, stepped in with a letter and a serious look. "This came by courier," she said quietly, "from him." Oliver took the envelope and read the return address. Benton Correctional Facility. It was from Marla James. "She's dying," Naomi explained. "Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Oliver opened the letter slowly. Marla's handwriting had changed. Less sharp, more human. She apologized, not just for the corporate sabotage or the forged reports, but for something deeper. "I envied you," she wrote. "Not your money, not your company. I envied how people loved you for free." She asked for nothing, no forgiveness, just that he protect the girls from the kind of bitterness that rotted her from the inside out. Oliver set the letter down and looked at Sarah. "What do I do with this?" he asked. Sarah stepped forward and gently held his hand. "You let it end here." Later that night, the family drove out to Discovery Park. Blankets, sandwiches, a small telescope. The girls had insisted on a stargazing picnic, like the old days, they said. The city lights blinked behind them, a living contrast to the silent cosmos above. Emma pointed up. "See that one? That's Lyra, the harp. Dad says it's the constellation for storytellers." Ella lay back, arms behind her head. "It's weird. I used to be afraid of silence. Now I like it." Oliver smiled. "Silence gives you space to hear yourself think." Emma rolled over to face him. "Did that letter change anything?" Oliver paused, then answered honestly. "It reminded me of how lucky I am to have this moment. With you, with Mom, with all of us." Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. "And that's all that matters." And the twins looked at each other, then at their parents. They didn't need to say it aloud. This was home. The sun dipped low over Seattle's Memorial Stadium, casting a golden hue across rows of folding chairs filled with proud parents, buzzing graduates, and the echoes of a brass band tuning up in the distance. A banner read, "Class of 2029, the future is now." Oliver Harris stood in the second row with Sarah beside him, their hands clasped loosely. The seats around them overflowed with flowers, cameras, and misty-eyed relatives. But his focus never wavered from the two girls at the far end of the platform, Ella and Emma, wearing navy blue gowns and caps tipped just slightly to the side in that charming, individualistic way they'd always done things. "You think they'll trip on stage?" Sarah whispered, smirking. Oliver exhaled slowly. "If they do, they'll turn it into a statement piece." They both laughed. The ceremony moved quickly, names, applause, bursts of camera flashes, but time slowed when Ella approached the podium. She was valedictorian. Emma had insisted she take the speech, saying, "You're the loud one. I'll handle the college scholarships." Ella cleared her throat, tapping the mic gently. "When I was little," she began, "I used to believe stars only came out at night, that they were born from darkness. But someone, actually two someones, taught me that stars shine all the time. It's just that sometimes you need to be in the right place to see them." She paused. The crowd hushed. "My dad once got stuck in traffic and missed a very important meeting, but that delay gave us everything. A family, a beginning, a chance to write our story out loud. To every kid who's ever felt invisible, or parent who thought it was too late, remember, it only takes one moment to change an entire life." Applause erupted. Real, sustained, tear-damp applause. Oliver blinked away the sting in his eyes. Sarah reached over and squeezed his hand. Ella stepped down. Emma was next. Not for a speech, but to receive a regional leadership award for launching their podcast, The Next Us, which now had 200,000 subscribers. As she accepted the plaque, her eyes briefly met Oliver's. She mouthed, "Thank you." After the ceremony, the family spilled onto the field, snapping photos, hugging classmates, and dodging balloons. Oliver stood off to the side for a moment, watching them. The way they moved, the sound of their laughter, the lives they'd built and were now building beyond him. "You okay?" Sarah asked, joining him. He nodded. "They don't need us the same way anymore." Sarah tilted her head. "No, but they'll always want us. There's a difference." At home that night, the girls opened gifts, books, frames, and a handcrafted star map from Oliver that marked the night they first met. Sarah cooked her famous garlic pasta. Laughter bounced off the walls. Later, when the house quieted and the girls had gone to bed, Oliver sat alone on the balcony, sipping chamomile tea, gazing up at the stars. He pulled out his phone and opened an old email thread, the one from Marla, long archived but never deleted. He hovered over it, thumb paused, then slowly tapped delete. Not out of hate, out of closure. The sliding door creaked. Emma stepped out, wrapped in a blanket. "Can't sleep?" She shook her head. "Nervous about tomorrow. College, everything." He offered her the chair beside him. "Hey," he said softly, "the best maps are the ones that still have blank spaces." She leaned into his side. "You always say the right thing. I only say what I've learned from you two." They sat in silence under the same sky as they had 5 years earlier, but everything had changed, and everything was finally, beautifully still.